The saga of ABBA remains one of the most compelling and, at times, heartbreaking stories in the history of pop music. At its core, the band was defined by two creative and romantic partnerships, Benny Andersson and Annie-Frid Lyngstad, and perhaps more famously, Bjorn Ulvaeus and Agnetha Faltskog. The latter pairing, Bjorn, the skilled songwriter and musician, and Agnetha, the alluring lead vocalist, were considered one of the most beautiful, talented, and famous onstage couples of all time. Their combined professional and personal magnetism was instrumental in propelling ABBA onto the global stage, transforming them from Swedish sensation into international icons. For years, fans and listeners worldwide were captivated by their apparent fairy tale relationship, seeing in them the ideal artistic and romantic partnership. The love they appeared to share fueled countless daydreams and continues to inspire stories of a perfect musical partnership. It was precisely this perception of perfection that made the eventual collapse of their marriage so unfortunate and unexpected. When Bjorn and Agnetha filed for divorce and decided to go their separate ways, it sent shockwaves through the music world and ABBA's dedicated fan base. This personal crisis was widely seen as the beginning of the end for one of the greatest bands of all time, fundamentally altering the group's dynamic both on and off the stage. Years after the separation, Bjorn Ulvaeus began to open up, shedding light on the circumstances that led to the breakdown of their marriage. What he confirmed was not just the fact of the divorce, but the poignant and deeply personal method through which he articulated his feelings and delivered the painful truth of their separation. This brings us directly to the story behind one of ABBA's most legendary and emotionally resonant singles, The Winner Takes It All. In the summer of 1979, in a cottage on Vigzo Island, Bjorn Ulvaeus and Benny Andersson began the composition that would become a global hit and an enduring anthem of heartbreak. According to Andersson, the song idea materialized from a collection of old, small musical pieces they had been working on. Crucially, this period coincided with the painful decline of Bjorn and Agnetha's marriage. Bjorn had started to drift away from Agnetha, and, being a musician, the only way he felt he could express his overwhelming and conflicting feelings was through his craft. Music was the language he knew best, the channel for his most difficult emotions. The demo's initial title was fittingly The Story of My Life, a testament to the fact that Bjorn was pouring all the pain, confusion, and raw feelings of his impending divorce directly into the song's framework. The first arrangement they attempted was up-tempo, with a steady, metrical pace. However, both musicians found this version too stiff and emotionally flat, failing to capture the depth of Bjorn's experience. They set the tune aside for a few days, focusing on other compositions. When they returned to it 4 days later, Benny Andersson suggested a different approach. A French chanson-style arrangement featuring a descending piano line and a looser, more open structure. This musical change provided the perfect emotional backdrop, a kind of melancholic, open-hearted feeling that Bjorn had been trying to portray. Andersson recorded a tape with gibberish French phrases for a temporary lyric track and handed it to Bjorn to write the actual words. What followed was a highly concentrated burst of creativity and sorrow. According to Bjorn, he was almost always drinking whiskey while he wrote the lyrics, and the resulting text was the shortest lyric he had ever composed. All the main, emotionally charged lines of the song came to him in a rush of emotion in just 1 hour. The divorce was imminent, and despite the mutual, rational agreement that the separation was for the best, the process was affecting both Bjorn and Agnetha deeply. It was at the moment of this raw, emotional outpouring that the song was completed. The most poignant and, arguably, the awful truth of Bjorn's method was revealed when he finally presented the completed lyrics to Agnetha for her to review and record. Upon reading the words, a direct, unvarnished chronicle of a relationship's failure, Agnetha began to cry. The lyrics, written by her husband and soon-to-be ex-husband, had a profound and immediate effect on her, confirming that the song was a deeply personal reflection of their shared, painful reality. Though the world believed the song was their divorce anthem, Bjorn initially tried to deny it, claiming the song was based on the experience of a divorce, but was actually fiction. His justification was that in his separation from Agnetha, there was no clear winner or loser, yet the collective intuition of the public was hard to sway. Many people continue to believe the song is deeply rooted in fact, largely because of the palpable pain and vulnerability in Agnetha's voice when she performed it on stage. Bjorn later conceded that the profound sadness of their breakup was indeed the inspiration. Even if the lyrics could not be taken literally as a scene-by-scene recount, he admitted they still held unparalleled meaning to both of them, reflecting a separation that was complicated, where they were both winning and losing simultaneously. This raises the main agonizing question that fans have long pondered. Why did Bjorn make Agnetha sing such a painful song? Divorce is, in itself, an incredibly difficult ordeal, but having to perform lyrics written by your ex-husband, lyrics that recount the finality of your relationship, and even hint at him kissing another girl, makes the situation far more challenging and emotionally wrenching. The reason behind this decision lies in the incredibly complicated and emotionally painful relationship Bjorn had with Agnetha, one where cracks had been appearing long before the ultimate public showdown. From the outside, the start of their marriage appeared perfect, but in retrospect, Bjorn suggests there were red flags from the very beginning. Both Agnetha and Bjorn were intensely driven by their careers, almost to the exclusion of everything else, including their nascent family and their own relationship maintenance. They married young, initially driven by a shared, intoxicating passion that fueled their music and which they initially found in each other. The little differences initially seemed manageable. Agnetha's deep need for comfort and Bjorn's increasingly apparent need for control. These were problems they initially overlooked, but as their relationship progressed and the pressures of global fame mounted, these differences became the defining fault lines that heralded the end. According to Bjorn, Agnetha was fundamentally incredibly possessive and fearful. She was perpetually anxious, worried that disaster was always lurking around the corner. A fan might turn into a stalker, a plane might crash during one of their relentless global tours, leaving their children orphaned, or, perhaps most damaging to their relationship, that Bjorn would cheat. This anxiety manifested itself visibly. Especially after the band became famous, she often had an anxious look and was perpetually on edge. Her stress was so profound that it invaded her sleep, leading to night terrors where she would vividly imagine unspeakable things happening to her family, causing her to become mentally disturbed. Her chronic worry created a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more anxious she became, the more she felt she was driving Bjorn away, which only intensified her fears and made her clingier than ever before. This behavior, intended to hold him closer, ended up achieving the exact opposite of what she desired. Agnetha's escalating anxiety and possessive behavior began to disturb Bjorn more than he could bear. His reaction was to become emotionally cold and more controlling, a dynamic